Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Breitling Emergency II. You can see this combination quartz chronometer and rescue transmitter on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full listing for this watch with additional accessories included, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this enormous Emergency II. Now the watch on my wrist simply dwarfs my 6 1/3 inch 16 centimeter forearm. Now that's the circumference of my wrist, and the bottom line is that at 51 millimeters, this watch is like wearing a small bank vault. Quite frankly, this thing is going to alert rescue workers simply by virtue of its size from 50 miles away. Who needs the transmitter with a size like that and a dial of this nature? All joking aside, the watch measures 55 millimeters across the horizontal span of the case. There are very few places where you can measure that 51, so the reality is more like a 55, 56 millimeter watch on your wrist. In terms of thickness, this is going to be on top of whatever offshore gear you're wearing on your yacht or any pilot's gear that you're wearing in the cockpit. 22 millimeters thick, it's not fitting underneath any sleeve, not even a snowblower jacket. And from lug to lug, remember, this one is an incredible 65 millimeters. So even if you do have that He-Man wrist, this watch at best is going to play it even. Absolutely no living human is going to dwarf this watch. But fortunately, Breitling didn't make an overbearing watch from a mass standpoint, as the complete titanium construction, bezel, case, bracelet, and clasp is reasonably light on the wrist. It's not a featherweight by any means, simply by virtue of its size, but nor is it quite as heavy as you would imagine. Now, the 3-link bracelet is a solid piece, with a clasp that features clamshell closure for security and a single-fold milled-out deployant action. It's solid, well-made, and inspires confidence. Now you'll also note that on the case back of the watch there's a certain amount of useful information. First of all, you will be in jeopardy of legal consequence if you activate this watch outside the bounds of a legitimate emergency, which is why Breitling engraves in the case back right at the bottom, "Use only in case of real emergency." So those of you with fake emergencies, take note. You'll also note that the battery needs to be replaced by March 2019. However, that does not mean that is the lifespan of a charge. Rather, this is the first emergency that Breitling allows you to both test and recharge at home. And Breitling advises recharging every 2 months. Now the case, like the bracelet and bezel, is in a subdued satin finish. It has most of the typical Breitling styling cues: integrated lugs, beveled lugs, oversized bezel with the famed screws fixing it to its track. It's very secure. However, as understated as the tone of the titanium is, that's how explosive the intrepid orange dial is. Now it's ringed by a smooth bidirectional compass rose bezel that can be used in conjunction with the hour hand to find north, whether you're in the southern or northern hemisphere, and the dial itself features superluminova on board the Arabic numerals as well as the hands at center, so you can view this one without the activation of any kind of backlight, and that's a good thing because frankly the watch doesn't have one. What it does have is a super quartz chronometer caliber 76, which is extremely rare, as Breitling is one of the very few companies that bothers to receive a COSC certificate for quartz movements. That's always been a distinguishing feature of Breitling quartz, and this one being a super quartz, it's also thermocompensated, so for areas very hot and very cold, the watch is able to maintain its high performance. You'll also note that it has an analog and a digital display. Now you can turn the digital display on or off, depending on what kind of readout you want and whether you want to save the battery. The battery itself that powers the time is not rechargeable, but it does have a life of 3 to 4 years. Now you'll also note other features, including an alarm. So you set the time of day that you want the alarm to go off, and it has a piercing klaxon effect. Chronograph, so you have a chronograph such that you can time intervals with the easy use of the crown interface. It's effectively a mono pusher. You also have a second time zone. You have a countdown timer, so you enter a time 30 minutes, an hour and a half, and a countdown from that time, and then sounds the alarm. That's the distinction between the other alarm, which is a time of day. This is a countdown from a specified time. And then, of course, you have a calendar, which is programmed for 4 years and has multilingual features as well. This is a robust timepiece and one designed for those who truly rough it. If you're a wilderness hiker or biker, if you're competing in the Iditarod, if you're an offshore sailor, or if you're a pilot, this watch might make a lot of sense to you. While it's certainly not cheap, it is a legitimate piece of life-saving gear, and for the first time, the watch isn't constrained by the broadcast range of its transmitter. Previously, on emergency frequency 121.5 megahertz, the watch had a range of about 140 to 190 kilometers up to 20,000 feet. Now, with the 406 megahertz frequency, it simply pipes that signal up to a Cosmos SARSAT satellite. When you activate one, you activate the entire network, and thus the watch has an effectively unlimited range from a rescue standpoint, with a battery duration of 18 to 24 hours once activated, depending on temperature. 5 ATM water resistance means that if you are an offshore sailor and you happen to go over into the drink, this watch will keep you safe and secure as it sounds the beacon, but I wouldn't go diving with it with 5 ATM resistance. If this sounds like it's right up your alley, check out this Breitling Emergency II titanium with intrepid orange dial on our website.